Hi, Sean. I'm just testing my video and audio because my internet connection is weird. Is this okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to be prompt because I've had a long day and have a long day tomorrow, and we have a full agenda. So we have a quorum here. Welcome. This is the October 2023 general meeting of ANC 1C for Adams Morgan. Today is Wednesday, October 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I guess we'll begin. Welcome everyone. Glad for those who could attend. Hopefully we will be good with our audio this month, at least for our intern's sake. I'll get into that in a minute. So yeah, call this meeting to order. We'll start just getting into it. Quick, just brief introductions. We'll just go by SMD of who's in attendance. I know at least one commissioner won't be able to make it. We have almost everyone. So I guess we'll start order up. Start with you, Daniel. 101.
Sure. Hi, Daniel Michelson Horowitz here. I am in 1C01, which is the southern end of Adams Morgan, bounded by Florida on the south, Wyoming on the north, 18th more or less on the east, and Connecticut, Columbia on the west.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lee Dixon. I represent 1CO2, which is the wedge between Columbia Road and Connecticut Ave Northwest.
Peter Wood, 1CO3, the middle. It's always a dispute of how chambered of a heart. I'll stop it. We can, that's how we're done. 1CO3, right in the middle, is 18th to 19th, Biltmore to Wyoming.
Hey everyone, Joe Van Wy, Commissioner for ANC 1CO4, sort of the northwest corner of the commission, 18th Columbia, northwest of that.
Hello, I'm Commissioner Margaret Stevens representing 1C05. That's the portion of Lanier Heights that is adjacent to Rock Creek Park, Walter Pierce Park, and home to Fire Station 21, the Ontario apartment building, and the famous kiosk.
Hi, Commissioner Linda Laughlin. I'm the other side of Lanier Heights, on the eastern side, closer to Mount Pleasant.
Commissioner Jake Valaschini, 1C07, which is 18th to 17th, roughly, Florida to Columbia, roughly. The higher number ANCs are just not showing up today, huh? We're slacking.
It would be interesting to I'm not going to do it. This is also a horrible idea, but it would be interesting to chart out the relationship between how high a number it is and how often people come to meetings historically.
Bottom of the order.
Exactly. The lower numbers show up more. I don't know. So let's go into officers' reports. Chair's report. I don't know that I have anything specifically. I mean, one main thing that I've spent time on is really trying to onboard our intern. It's a number of things. I think the next big task, actually, an important detail before I go into that. Angeles, is a student at Morgan State University, and there was a shooting last night on campus in a dorm. She's fine. Wasn't in an area that she resides in, but 6 different people got shot, I think. It's a scary situation. I mean, of course, we focus on our neighborhood quite a lot for understandable reasons, but a lot of the violent crime that I've always heard about, but especially the last couple of years, it's not just in DC, it's nearby as well. And glad she's safe. No, 6, not 60. And it was in Baltimore. But still, I mean, scary situation. I'm glad she's all right. I checked in with her earlier. Been trying to get her on board. She's a very good worker. Last month's meeting, of course, we had some technical issues. So that's why we don't have minutes for that set up yet. Just kind of want to make sure they're set. But the next big thing on her agenda will be our yearly annual report that every commission in the city is required to do. So that will be coming soon, ideally for our November meeting. But that's the main thing. We haven't had like any special elections or anything come up. So there's not any of the kind of atypical chair planning going on, but I'm constantly getting all kinds of feedback from people from the community. So keep it coming. Glad to hear it. Not sure who's next on the list. Secretary? Yeah, I guess you're the only one who's here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Peter. Secretary's report is that we've got a normal meeting schedule this month, which means tonight's the ANC meeting. Next Wednesday at 7 p.m., we will have the ABC and Public Safety Committee meeting, all on Zoom. All the committee meetings will be this month. On October 18th, we'll have the PZT, the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting. And on the 25th at 7 p.m., also on Zoom, we'll have the Public Services and the Environment Committee. Those agendas will all be posted a week in advance to the neighborhood list and also up on the website. You can see more there.
Perfect, thank you. Our treasurer is not here tonight. He had told us he wasn't going to be able to make it, I think, as early as last month. So we'll have a treasurer's report. We do have some treasurer related items, so we'll do our best to get through those. I hope that we're informed. I've done some outreach. Just while we have you, Vice Chair, you got any announcements?
No, nothing in particular. Thank you.
All right. Let's go through SMD reports. I guess let's do reverse order, which would be starting with 1C07.
Thank you. As chair of the ABC and Public Safety Committee, first, let me just start with the agenda for that. We've got just some liquor license renewals. We're going through the time of year when grocery stores and others with the grocery license to sell alcohol have their liquor license renewals. So if anyone has any particular thoughts about any grocery establishments in the neighborhood and whether or not they are complying with all of their requirements, please feel free to show up next Wednesday and let us know. Otherwise, we'll just be doing our regular public safety update from the commission, 303 precinct. For my own SMD, biggest news is that the Jubilee Housing closed on their project on Ontario Road just north of Kalorama. It's a fairly large project, but as of now, all of the build design is by right. So there will be there shouldn't be anything that comes in front of the ANC that's a deviation of the building code. But, there are going to be some public conversations that I think we want to have around it. The project itself is a mixed housing project where about 50 of the units are going to be reserved for, 50% of the units are going to be reserved for family housing. So these are very low income housing for families, which is especially needed in Adams Morgan, just very, very needed. We have way more demand than we have housing supply in this area right now. So we're incredibly excited about that. And then the other half is going to be returning citizens who are going through like second or third round of returning. They've gone into another reentry project like immediately. They've passed some hurdles. They've already had the ability to meet with the staff of Jubilee Housing. Jubilee's got a really good sense of who they are, what their needs are, how they can be successful. and then admits them into this next round of reentry housing, where some of them will even be able to reunite with their families, which is really fantastic and also incredibly well needed. Jubilee's been so thoughtful about this project and the way that they're approaching it, providing wraparound services for these folks. They really get what they need to be successful returning citizens. And we know from lots of studies that stable housing and stable jobs reduce the recidivism rate for folks almost down to the baseline numbers that you see for the rest of society. It was really remarkable. So, we're going to have some community conversations about this. I think it's important for folks to, hash it out and, voice their concerns, and also for, us to be able to have experts come in to talk about the reality, and also real humans that have gone through these systems before and had really successful reentry because they've been supported. I myself am, very excited to support a project like this in our neighborhood. We really need this kind of housing for folks. So I'm excited to support it, and also to give the community an opportunity to talk about it and to hash it out, and have like a real conversation about it. That's the biggest thing going on in my SMD right now. All the rest is normal stuff.
CO6. Commissioner Laughlin, that's you.
Sorry, I was trying to read
You're good.
I was trying to read about the grant stuff. So not any big, just more, parties going on in 1CO6 for Halloween. Just as a reminder, I'm sure everyone knows, if you live in our area, Lanier shuts down so that trick-or-treaters can come and enjoy Halloween festivities on the 31st. And then also because I live in 1705, we do the best decorating ever. So just to let you know. And then also to coincide with Porch Fest on the 14th on the eastern side of Lanier, between Ontario and Quarry Road, the neighbors have band together to shut down the street. So we'll be doing a block party on that part of Lanier, and it's potluck. So if you want to bring food, share food, eat food, you're welcome to join. But to coincide with Porch Fest, because one of the bands that's playing is on that part of Lanier, so everyone's welcome to come hang out in the street with us. Yeah, Lanier, our neighbors are awesome. Thank you.
Okay, my announcements are apparently boring. Anyway, so we have a slope problem. There is a slope on Adams Mill as it intersects, or as it almost intersects Harvard, that is experiencing extreme erosion, many trees falling, big ones, and it's quite dangerous. So I spoke to the National Park Service, who's apparently in charge of that slope, and they are going to take care of the problem. I've asked for next steps just so I can be apprised of, again, the steps that they want to take, and I have not heard from them, so I'll follow up. I was contacted by a few constituents concerning the slope, so just know that that's in the works to being corrected. So there's that. And then the next part, this one is not boring at all. I want to give a above and beyond shout out to Josh Gibson. He repaired the doors on the 1C05 bulletin board without even being asked. He went in and repaired them, and I'm so grateful to him. Just wonderful. Couldn't be happier about that, and I appreciate him so much. And then I know Linda, for the PSE committee is I guess thinking about sprucing up these bulletin boards, and we still need to do that. So it's still kind of in bad shape in terms of cosmetically, but as far as it being in good repair, we're good for a while anyway. So there's that. This is actually a little in advance, but maybe people can start thinking about it. I'm planning an Earth Day planting type seed scatter sort of event in April. So I would love it if all of you would join with me so we can have an ANC wide event. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I'm working with D.Dot Forestry and some other folks, and I'll send out more details as we get closer. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you.
I think I'm up next. not a ton in the ways of updates from my ANC, but I do want to give a quick shout out. I was sorry to miss it. I was out of town, but I hear that Adams Morgan Day this year was a smashing success. My Twitter feed was full of very exciting developments in our neighborhood, lots of fun looking photos. My FOMO was strong. I was at a wedding, which was nice, but not quite as nice as Admo Day. So thanks to everyone who made that such a great success. But as far as my SMD, no updates for this month.
And I'll second that. The Adams Morgan Day was good. I was glad that the weather finally held up for an event on 18th Street, as far as we can say. So 1CO3, there's a lot of things. First, Calorama Park. Well, no particular order. Calorama Park, and I've had some neighbors that are very good about being active and talking to DPR. There's some erosion issues as well. The way to fix it is expensive and not going to happen in the short term. So we're trying to get a short-term fix to hold it in place. It seems to be moving along, but it's one of those kind of bureaucratic moments where we're waiting for papers to get signed and approved and money to get moved around. So hopefully that happens soon. I've also had some people reach out about the quality of the sidewalks in the park. So there's a request with DGS to try to improve that because there's quite a bit that is broken. And a lot of people use strollers and walkers and such, which is good because people use the park a lot. But there's kind of some maintenance that could be done, and hopefully DGS will do it. They're not always the fastest. There's one specific maintenance request that I've been waiting, I think 2 years in a few weeks for them to just get a quote for it, but unfortunately that has not happened. I'll keep bothering them. Other things, continue to try to be in touch with people at 1841 Columbia. That's one of the few properties that has the same property owner. It's very large, seems to be a pretty negligent owner. So I'm trying to explore options. A good chance that I'll try to come up with a resolution for us to consider in the next month. I want to try to find other ANCs that have properties from this company. I've seen them in the local press discuss it. So if we can join forces to put pressure to have them be a more responsible landlord, I think that'd be a good thing. Just kind of working out what might be a good strategy. As well as the Promenade, another large property that's immediately, I guess, adjacent to the 7-Eleven at Wyoming Columbia 19th. There's been a bunch of unrelated to the 7-Eleven, or at least mostly unrelated as far as I can tell. Some issues of basically an excessive amount of police calls, which is probably because there's been an excessive amount of reasons for police calls to happen. I signed a letter that was written by, I think, the tenants union. There's basically a need for security from the ownership there. So a couple of landlord related issues that affect some of the larger apartment complexes in my SMD. I also have a constituent who I may be saying this too early. It hasn't been completely finalized, I don't think, but they're going through the permitting to try to have, I believe in Calorama Park, a Halloween themed dog costume event contest. So as soon as I have that confirmed, have details, I will send it out because I think it should and probably will be well attended because people love dogs and costumes. So that will hopefully happen and be fun. I'll stop there. I could go on forever because I paid far too much attention to every minutia in SMD, but there's a lot going on, so I'm glad to be in the loop.
So I have a few things, and unfortunately they're all negative. So I had a constituent reach out to me. It was last week saying that the Valley Vista condo building is using the alley behind their building to block it for move in and move out, and because of that, garbage trucks are not able to get into the alley to collect their trash. They said that this is happening multiple times. I reached out to DPW and tried to figure out like what a solution is for a chronic problem like this, and they proceeded to yell at me and hung up. So I was not able to figure out a solution to this problem, and now I'm kind of resorting to like hive mind to figure out what a solution to this problem is. As far as I know, Valley Vista is massive and definitely has the ability to block off the road in front of their building for move in and move out. And my concern, especially with all the rats in the city, is that, you know, if trash is not being collected, it's a higher likelihood of rats just proliferating in, you know, in their backyards. On top of that, I sent you all an email earlier with that video to the theft out of the back of that truck, the repair person. My understanding is that this is on the rise. I don't know if this is on the rise just in our neighborhood or across the city, but it seems like repair people and cleaning services are the subject of rampant theft right now. So I'm not really sure what to do about that. I did CC the two officers, the community officers in our area about that. I'm not really sure what to do there. And then lastly, this is technically in Commissioner Horowitz's district, but the 7-Eleven, I did notice that there was an arrest made 2 weeks ago for someone who was entering and making threats against the cashier. It's continuing to be a problem, with just people like yelling and cursing all hours of the day and night. I've reached out to Kristen Barden multiple times, who seems to think that an officer at that location or a security guard at that location would be helpful, but there is no timeline for when that will actually happen. Other than that, that is all I have.
Thanks. And in 1CO1, I'll reiterate again the concern about the 7-Eleven there, and needing to have a security presence or some solution, because I've gotten multiple complaints as well. In my SMD, I'm gonna keep it short because I don't last, but a couple things. The school across the street from me on 19th Street, the Adams Middle School, the demolition has begun for the renovation. Heavy construction won't begin until later on this year, but at some point, the parking on the west side of the street adjacent to the school will be taken away and used for construction vehicles. But if you want more details on the specific timeline, I will be getting that soon at and I'll be distributing a flyer for a community-wide construction update for the school. So if you want more information, please let me know and I'll make sure to include you on that. It'll also go out on the neighborhood listserv. And I'm also in touch with the developers of the Universal Towers at the corner of Florida and Connecticut and Columbia for an update on their construction timeline. So I hope to get that soon. And I attended a Parks and Rec meeting this past week about the plan to put in historical signs at Walter Pierce Park, an acknowledgement of the 8,428 graves that remain under the park of an African-American and Quaker cemetery. All the names will be listed on those signs, and those signs will be on the turnabout on Adams Mill Road. And there will, at the same area, be a new public restroom that has various security and cleaning features, and will be maintained daily. I also asked about parks that are getting renovated in the neighborhood, Unity Park, and I'm forgetting the name of the small park, little triangle park across from the 7-Eleven, but it's there. Those should start later this year, and then early next year is likely when they will put in new erosion barriers in Kalorama Park. But that's, of course, only a temporary solution. A larger permanent solution to erosion in the park will need to be a new budget item. I've gotten anecdotes about an increase in rats lately in my SMD. I'm going to be in touch about a coordinated rat abatement with the city. So if you want to be included on that, please let me know. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're all busy. That's good. Now we'll move. We have special guest this evening. Councilmember Brandon Doe is here to give us an update. The legislative season is starting up again, so I know there's a lot going on over in the Wilson Building. Welcome, Councilmember.
There I am. Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for all those great updates. It's good to be with you all tonight. I wanted to first thank you all for allowing me to join your busy agenda. I try to attend each ANC meeting every few months, but my staff is here every month so we can stay abreast of what you're working on. I was very glad to be at Adams Morgan Day this year. Zoe and I came for dinner time, and I think that is the sweet spot instead of that midday heat rising from the asphalt. So I feel like after all this time, I finally got it down. We're going to come from dinner time from now on. But it was really fun and joyful and great to see everybody out and great to have the street closed down again. So thanks to everyone who made that happen. We have restarted our series of coffee walks where I walk in a neighborhood with residents to talk about the issues we've been working on: trash, rats, crime, all that good stuff. I want to thank everyone who joined us at Potter's House in August, and also those who joined our public safety town hall over the summer with Commander Bodler. We had 120 people on that Zoom. And then just a reminder, if I'm going to talk a little bit tonight, and then whatever questions folks don't get answered, you can always follow up with me via email at bnadeau@dccouncil.gov. So tonight I want to just provide some updates. I want to start with some public safety updates because I know that's always on everyone's mind. I have a comprehensive approach to public safety. So that means we're focusing not only on prevention, but also policing, prosecution, and rehabilitation. And the way that works through our different branches of government is that our executive branch, MPD, those are our officers in the community every day, patrolling, making arrests, addressing the crime they see. They also have limited undercover operations that can be deployed across the city. And I have asked our chief to be deploying that in Ward 1. There's been some work in certain areas of ANC 1C around drug sales that they've done that. And that's ongoing. And our 3rd District Commander, Commander Bodler, has also asked for my advocacy to secure additional resources for mobile camera units for Ward 1 in the 3rd District, which I've made that request and have committed to putting more funds in the budget next year if the chief doesn't allocate those funds in the interim. I have had the chance to get to know our new chief. We had a hearing for her confirmation last week where I got to spend several hours listening to her and others testify about the issues that are going on. And then she is going to come give an address to Ward 1. It looks like early November is the date that we're settled on. So we can have a town hall with her and folks can come out and ask her their questions directly, and she can introduce herself to Ward 1. But there's also a lot of non-police work that we do in community to address public safety. And one of the things that I did when I was chair of the Committee on Human Services was establish the homeless street outreach team citywide that now serves our area through our contract with Miriam's Kitchen. And you'll see them out and about during the day working in the area, but you can also request them through 311 if you see someone in need of homeless services or connection to housing. I also, in the budget that just kicked in, have funded $250,000 for safe commercial corridors in Adams Morgan to support the hiring of 2 additional safety ambassadors as part of the bid. And these are staff who also make the rounds each day, connecting folks with behavioral health support, homeless services, identifying other safety issues and addressing them. It's been a really critical part of the program in Adams Morgan around public safety. In addition to that, in this fiscal year, I've put nearly $5 million in the budget for violence prevention and substance use disorder across the ward. And this is on top of the millions that I've been putting in each year. We also have a sobering center coming to Columbia Heights that'll serve the whole ward. And that's an opportunity for us to serve people grappling with substance use disorder in a private space off the street and make sure they get the support and resources they need to stay healthy and get healthy. So even though council members are not the ones who implement the immediate short-term solutions, we do everything within our power to bring resources to the communities we serve. Those are some examples of what I'm doing in Adams Morgan. And of course, we also pass laws. So in July, the council passed the Prioritizing Public Safety Amendment Act, which includes a number of measures. But one of the most important ones is giving the U.S. attorney and the courts more leeway in using pre-trial detention for violent crimes. This is something we hear about a lot from victims and residents, where they hear about an arrest being made and then that person is back in community pretty quickly while they're waiting for trial. And we wanted to give the U.S. attorney some extra tools to keep the community safe, specifically when we're talking about a list of defined violent crimes that we went through together as a council. I also introduced legislation that we had a hearing on today to crack down on fake license plate tags. And we had a really robust discussion. A number of ANCs participated. It was really great to get everybody's input on that, along with some other road safety bills. We did a joint hearing with my committee, which is the Public Works and Operations Committee, and the Committee on Transportation and the Environment. And the bills that we are looking at are really a package together that will allow us to get at reckless drivers, to use more automated enforcement, to use a point system instead of fines when people violate our laws, and to get dangerous drivers off the road more quickly than our current system allows with the progression of consequences that are under our law. So we had a really great discussion about that. I'm looking forward to moving the bills that have been referred to me, including the one that I wrote on fake tags, and cracking down on those so we can give the Department of Public Works more tools to get those vehicles off the street and go after folks who are selling those fake tags to people in the District of Columbia. And I also introduced a bill earlier this year to help grow our police force organically through our cadet program. It would increase the age limit and also increase wages for our cadets. Our cadets are all DC residents, and they go through a special program to get into the police force. Right now, we are having trouble recruiting police, just like every police force across the country. It's not a funding issue. It really is about making sure that we are providing the right incentives and retention programs. And so rather than competing with every other police force across the country for the same people, a homegrown option is our cadet program. So working on expanding that is really important. A few other legislative updates quickly. Yesterday, the council passed on first reading what I originally introduced as a Lane's Law for one of our constituents who's a survivor of domestic violence. There's three components to the bill. One is it eliminates the waiting period for a divorce, which unfortunately was keeping people bound to their abusers longer than they ever should be. And so we only have one more vote on that. And the other component is allowing judges to weigh emotional, verbal, and financial abuse as a factor when they are determining financial compensation in a divorce, and also allowing survivors of violence to remain in their homes rather than having to vacate in order to proceed with divorce, which can be a huge issue for people who are making that decision about whether or not to leave a dangerous situation for them and their children. I'm very excited. We've been working on this bill for several years. I'm glad that it's finally moving forward. And then tomorrow I'll be visiting the Department of Forensic Services, the crime lab, the layman's terms, to get some answers on the progress of the crime lab reaccreditation. Our crime lab lost its accreditation several years ago, and the fact that it has not even applied for reaccreditation yet means that a lot of the evidence that we could be collecting to help solve crimes across the district is not being processed. And that means that we can't link crimes to people, if they're happening all over the place, and we can't close cases. And that's a huge problem in the situation that we're in right now. And it's a major contributor to the crime that we're seeing, in my opinion. So I am visiting tomorrow to get some answers. And I'm also introducing a bill next week that will require DFS to provide monthly status reports to the council on their progress in regaining their accreditation, because they keep missing their deadlines. And we need to be holding them accountable, and we need to be holding Mayor Bowser accountable for this. I hear a lot of times from officers who are out there working really hard to do their jobs. It's really demoralizing when they're doing everything they can. And then, there's a very slim chance of the evidence they collect being tested and the case not even being prosecuted. And this is an issue that we're talking about a lot right now with the U.S. Attorney here in the District of Columbia declining to prosecute 60% of the criminal cases here in the district. It's a huge issue for us. Without that prosecution, we don't have the deterrence that we need on crime and public safety. So working on that. I will stop there. Oh, just one other thing. I'm having a hearing October 19th on trash. We're all trash all the time at the Public Works Committee, except for when we're about parking and road safety. So there's several bills being heard. One that would require buildings with up to 8 condos to be eligible for city trash pickup. One from Councilmember Louis George requiring public comment before removing waste cans, litter cans. It's a big issue, I know, for all of us because they keep disappearing. One bill from Department of Public Works asking them, they're asking permission to serve trash violation notices by mail rather than in person. That seems reasonable. And then my funding for the pilot program for a communal trash container program is kicking in. It's right now. So we've got that going, and the curbside composting pilot. For those of you who are participating, would love your feedback. We're doing it at our house and we're having a really fun time doing it. So I'll pause there and see if there are questions as the chair will allow.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments? Commissioner Laughlin, go ahead.
So thank you for joining us tonight, Councilmember Naidu. Could you repeat what you said about the 8 units and trash cans or something?
Yes. Okay. So Councilmember Henderson has a bill. So right now, most multifamily buildings are collected private. Yeah. So this bill would allow DPW to pick up for buildings up to 8 units.
Okay. No, that's great, because I actually had written down, like, what can we do to connect, and particularly in Adams Morgan, we have a lot of large buildings. And so we rely a lot on private services, and Republic as a trash service is notoriously bad. But this is great. So that'll cover some additional, or could it cover some additional homeowners in the district? Unfortunately not for some buildings like mine that has 30 units, but that would be a big improvement because it is a constant issue. It's the same with rat treatment. They will come and treat like a single family home, but not an apartment building. And it doesn't serve us well, because then you have to track down the landlords or the owners of the building and then get them to either pay for a service to treat their rat issues, whereas the smaller home next door can't do much about it because they can't control that. So I don't know if there's a solution to that, or if that's something to be talked about. Like abatement shouldn't be treated just by, it should be a citywide treatment problem, not left up to private landlords who are often just not taking care of the problem.
Totally agree, except for I think we should make them pay for it. So we should.
Yeah. Is there a way to fine them or to do something? Because
there is.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. And actually, you can have Department of Buildings come out and inspect, and they will fine them.
Okay.
So and we've been working with the Ward 1 reps from DOB on this. And if you want to contact, just let me know, shoot me a note. But I think you can do it through 311 or through a form on DOB's website. So that's one thing to think of. And we're thinking through a bill on consolidating some of the rat abatement services in the city, because Department of Health does them.
Mm-hmm.
On city properties. There's a contractor who does them, and it's not consistent and it's not great. And so we're thinking that through. And then the pilot that I mentioned, the curbside trash pilot, that is going to be a communal container with a locked communal container for certain blocks. Okay. And so instead of having all the push carts on the block, you're going to be doing that. And those will be really rat proof. And then what I'm loving about the compost program is not only that I feel good about putting less waste in the landfill, but the containers that we're getting from the city are rat proof. And so all that food that was going in my green bin is now going in my composting bin. And so if we can make this work for everybody citywide, I think that's the right direction, is just thinking about how we containerize trash better. I also I'm going to try to be doing some more oversight on the private haulers. DPW can do some enforcement and ticketing if a property isn't doing what they should be doing. And we've talked with the private haulers about this a bit too. And one of the things that they say is sometimes they make a recommendation to a client about, well, you need a different container, you need more collection, and the client doesn't take their recommendation. And so this is something we're looking at is, how do we require the right size containers, et cetera. But there are some regs, and DOB can come out and say, like, you aren't doing what you need to do under the law right now, and you need to get different containers. So let's work on that together for the buildings you have in mind.
Yeah, so Commissioner Stevens, but we may want to reach out. We have, because it's a condo building and it's on the street that we share between our SMDs. They have some garbage containers that are in the alleyway that are used a lot by the public to put trash in, but they also are not locked containers nor behind a fence, and they have been fined, but maybe they should work with DOB or someone else to find a solution, because they get private pickup. It's not DPW, but it's also I walk by them every day, and I could easily throw things in it if I wanted to.
Yeah, understood. Well, it's definitely a citywide issue, something I'm thinking about, and I think we'll get some good conversation in the hearing. In fact, while we're sitting here, I'll drop a link.
Great.
To the hearing in case anybody wants to sign up. We have a really cool new system. If you're a nerd, you'll think it's cool like me, but where you can sign up right here and see who else has signed up to testify. And it's all very public. I don't know if I can send to everyone. Here we go. There we go. So
Great,
for those
thank you.
Oh, wait, that's not our hearing. That's just all hearings. I'll get to it. Hold on. I can multitask.
Thanks, Commissioner Laughlin. Any other commissioners have questions? Anyone in attendance have any questions for Councilor? Oh, we have Commissioner Palskini. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for all you're doing for the neighborhood, council member. Can we just the transportation safety bills that went through? Can you tell us just a little bit more about them? You know, I geek out about
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay, so today's hearing was very exciting. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up for you so you can see. I will drop this in the chat too, so everybody can pull it up and see what bills we were looking at today. So we co-convened it. It was the License Suspension Reform Amendment Act. So talking about when we want to suspend driver's licenses, under what circumstances. And this was really getting at DUIs and reckless drivers, and the situation we had where somebody was killed in Rock Creek Parkway by a driver whose license should have been revoked, but there had been no communication to the DMV, and it was bad. Then there's the Automated Traffic Enforcement Effectiveness Amendment Act of 2023, which I believe is the one where we assign points instead of fines, because we're having this issue where we can't collect the fines from people in other states because we don't have reciprocity agreements. And let's be honest, politicians in other states are not about to sign up their constituents to get fines collected by us. And then there's the Strengthening Traffic Enforcement Education and Responsibility Amendment Act, which has a number of provisions that does exactly what it says. And then there's my bill, which is the Fraudulent Vehicle Tag Enforcement Amendment Act, which is where we go after fake tags. We see a very high correlation to reckless driving and fake tags. And so going after both the people selling them and the people using them nefariously is the goal with that bill. And we do that with the force of DPW, of booting and towing.
That's great. And then has the council yet heard the safe transportation safety bills that deal with school proximity and safety improvements in neighborhoods around schools?
Do you mean the safe routes to school bill?
There were two of them. One was like
Yeah.
safer to school, that was about funding more traffic safety folks in front of schools. And then the other one was about establishing clear guidelines about signage and best practices for DDOT sidewalks, crosswalks, all that sort of stuff around schools.
I can check, and also if you happen to have the name of the second one, let me know at some point. But the Safe Routes to School did pass and get funded, and then the mayor took the funding. So I think we're still working on that one.
Right. Okay, cool. And then the other one, I'll lift up and I'll send it over to your office.
That would be great. And we'll get you an update on that. Yeah.
Thanks,
I try to have them all in my head, but it's been a long day.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from commissioners? Looks like we have one hand from an attendee. So we'll head over that way. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. How can neighbors find out the status of the Adams Oyster campus construction? Have the proposed plans been approved?
Yeah, actually, Commissioner Horowitz had a great update on that. They have, and he was talking about how demolition is about to begin. And let me see if I can find, while we're here, the project page for it on the DC government website, so you can follow along. I know the school improvement team is meeting again tomorrow. I'm not sure if that's a public meeting, but we can figure that out and see. My colleague Sabrina is on the Zoom tonight, and she attends those meetings. So if there's an opportunity for the public to attend, I'll have her drop the link in the chat there so you can join, but it'll be an update on all the project. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you so much. Always nice to have you here. Always get to hear directly from our council member what's going on in the very busy Wilson building. So hopefully this.
Yeah.
goes
Well, let me just say, because I was waiting for someone to ask, but nobody did. I have an update on Ann Hughes Hargrove and Unity Parks.
Oh, that's
Okay.
right. I wasn't at the meeting.
I was really prepared tonight. I thought someone would ask me.
It's moving ahead
Okay.
though. Go for it, yeah.
So, for Ann Hughes Hargrove, they're submitting the permit by the end of next week. And for Unity, the project has been submitted for permitting.
Great.
We will stay on it. There's a big update at the Department of General Services, and that is my former staffer, Michelle Loggins, is now working there as the legislative affairs person. And she has touched every single one of these projects in my office in some way. So she's been really great at getting us updates. In the 2.5 weeks she's been there, we've gotten more information from DGS than I think in 9 years. So we're very excited about that. I will let you get back to your agenda. I thank you so much. Sabrina is going to send up to you guys the link for the SIT meeting and the project page so that you can push that out to everybody.
That's great. Glad to hear about the parks. Thanks for sharing. Good to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
And now we'll move to general public comments. I know we sometimes have people from organizations and such. Do try to keep your comments to within 2 minutes. If you're from an organization, a little bit more leeway, but please do be mindful of the time. Kristen Barton from the Adams Morgan Partnership and Business Improvement District. Welcome.
All right. Takes a minute to join as a panelist. So thanks, everyone, for your comments about Adams Morgan Day. I think, as you know, it's not our event, but we did help with the street closure this year, which went really well. And we were able to test the new barriers that we purchased. So, and we'll be using those again for Porch Fest. So if you didn't, so like Joe, if you were away for Adams Morgan Day, you will be able to see the new Meridian barriers. They're 750 pounds each, and you will be able to see those in use. So, and the goal of these is not for us to keep them because we'll only use them, a few times a year, but we're going to donate them back to the city, either DDOT or DPW. We're still figuring out which agency makes sense, but we're going to donate them back to the city so that they can be used for special events across the city, thereby reducing the need for dump trucks and so many MPD cruisers, and saving, human resources and natural resources. So so we're hoping that these barriers will, have a long life across the city in special events. So Porch Fest, yes, it's less than 2 weeks away. It's Saturday, October 14th. We are closing 18th Street again, same footprint as we have for the other two street closures between Columbia Road and Calorama Road. We have 22 porches this year and 88 bands. So we have a waiting list of like 30 bands. So if there are any dropouts, we'll be able to fill them with the other bands. A few things. We have a headliner this year who's going to be performing on 18th Street, Mark Bryan, who's the lead guitarist of Hootie and the Blowfish. He's performing with his band, the Screaming Trojans. at 5 o'clock on 18th Street. So that's going to be really fun. We're going to have two main stages. They're not actually stages, but two and also two headquarters. So we've always had music on the plaza at Columbia and Adams Mill Road. That will be, the plaza stage. And then we're going to have in Hoffman Alley, which is right next to Van Leeuwen Ice Cream. And that's going to be the Aetna stage. Aetna is one of our big sponsors of all of our street closures this year. So, and Mark Bryan and the Screaming Trojans will be there at Hoffman Alley on 18th Street. So, and we'll also have some, smaller headliners opening for Mark and then playing at the plaza stage too. And we'll have two headquarters passing out the maps and the wristbands and the wristband deals. So we're up to, I think, 37 businesses offering some kind of special on Porch Fest. So so people will want to get their free wristbands and then walk around the neighborhood and check out the music and check out all these great deals that they'll be able to get. So I think we're up to 37 businesses participating in the wristbands. So wristbands are free, the music's free. So it's a really fun day, and fingers crossed for good weather. The one thing we have no control over that makes a big deal is the weather. Anyhow, fingers crossed for good weather. We are hiring a part-time events coordinator person to help us with all of these events. It's becoming a little bit too much for our 2.5 person office to keep up with everything, plus our regular jobs. If anybody knows somebody or has a friend that might be interested, please have them send us their resume. We've been doing interviews. We haven't quite found the right person yet. Also we hired another safety ambassador. As the council member mentioned, we're going to be applying for this grant through the deputy mayor for public safety. We're going to be beefing up our safety ambassador crew. So we welcomed Stephen Bryce, who is a lifelong Washingtonian. He works in security in the evenings at Catholic University, doing campus security. So he's going to be working with us during the day. We're hoping that we'll have 2 safety ambassadors every day between noon and 8 p.m. So, and after we get the grant, we'll hire even more. So, the Admiral Vibe concerts in August were a great success. I hope some of you were able to attend those and enjoy them. I think we'll be doing those again next summer. The Hispanic Heritage Month movie series, we partnered with the Mayor's Office of Latino Affairs and held 3 movies at Marie Reed on Thursday nights in September. We had a little smaller attendance for those, but the weather was terrific. And all but the last one had subtitles. Let's see. So Porch Fest, the Apple Festival. So the Apple Festival is at the end of October 28th. It's from 10 to 1. There'll be an heirloom apple tasting that the farmers market helps coordinate. That happens around 10:30. And then we'll have the celebrity judges judge the apple pies probably around 11:30 noon. And then the extra slices from the pies that the bakers make will be sold. We're going to increase that price just by $1 a slice this year, from $5 to $6 a slice. And then all of that money from the pie sales will go this year to Jubilee Jumpstart, the daycare center in the neighborhood. So each year we choose a different Adams Morgan nonprofit to benefit from those pie sales. It raises around $2,000, not as much as as we'd like, but we have to keep the price of the pie slices fairly reasonable. So so that's the Apple Festival. And Jubilee Jumpstart's really excited to be on board this year. So, and they will have a participant be a judge with the panelists. Oh, and the ANC, we need you to let us know who you'd like to be the judge representing ANC 1C. So if someone could let me know the final decision by the end of the week is fine. And let's see, drag story time. We have one more of those events left this season, the last Sunday in October. So that's the 29th. That's in Unity Park at 11 o'clock. If the weather's not good, we move inside into the community center at the Line Hotel. So otherwise it'll be outside in Unity Park. And then for the holidays coming up pretty soon, we're going to be doing a new holiday display in front of Truist Bank there in the plaza. We've hired an architect and a design firm to put that together. It's going to be really cool. The theme is I had it on the tip of my tongue and now I can't remember. But anyway, we'll be coming back to the ANC for the public space permit for that display. It'll be up from right before Thanksgiving until early January. If I think of the theme, I'll put it in the chat. But they're going to be giant aluminum trees that will be lit up with LED lights. And then there's some snowflake elements to that as well. So it'll all be graffiti proof and very interactive. The giant trees, you're going to be able to like walk inside them and take pictures and stuff. So it's going to be really cool. And they're designing it in such a way that it will all collapse and we'll be able to store like very small things. So which was one of the issues we had with the giant gift boxes, that they weren't easy to store. They were very expensive to store. So we won't be doing that again. And then we'll also be putting the light pole decorations back up, the flitter, snowflake flitters and the pole wraps. Those will all go up around Thanksgiving as well. So so I think that's it for our fall programming. Happy to take any questions.
Lots is normal. I'm glad you're staying busy. Hope you're staying rested as well. I know that the summer
Yes.
was also good.
Yeah, thanks.
Any questions from commissioners? That was a lot. I think you explained it well. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
No, I think we're good. Have a good night. Thanks for coming as always. Hope to see you at some of these events soon, but I know that you had to work a lot, so hopefully we won't see you at all of them.
Yeah. Well, I'll be at Porch Fest for sure and Apple Festival. So yeah.
Perfect. And we'll get to you. I think we've had internal discussion. I've been slow to respond, but yeah, I think we'll figure it out soon. We'll be a judge, so it'll be fun.
Yeah. And come hungry. Don't eat anything for like a day because you're going to have to eat a lot of apple pie. So come hungry.
Good to know. Well, thanks again.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
I believe we're ready to move. I'll give another opportunity if anyone else wants to have public comments. All right, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Like I mentioned before, because of the technical issues last month and also our interns kind of adjusting to what the legal requirements of what we have to include in our minutes. So she did produce, she's very good and punctual, but just making sure that the minutes abide by that. I don't have a September, but this has July's, which I typed myself. It was a simple meeting, so it wasn't too hard. I'll move to support passing our consent agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Let's move along. We have a lot of items on our regular agenda tonight. At least speaking from the committee meetings I saw, most of them are relatively simple and probably won't generate too much discussion, maybe minus a couple. We'll start from items that were voted upon by the Alcoholic Beverage Control and Public Safety Committee. So none of these will need a second if there's a motion to support them. There's a bunch of different liquor license stuff. First is for mixed and BU. That is an institution that is new. They have good acai. They had already gotten our support for the liquor license, but now they're looking to modify it to add an entertainment endorsement. This is something that passed 2-1. It's one of the few non-unanimous votes we've had in a while of the three of us. Commissioner Shapiro, who's not here, was opposed to it. Any questions, comments, concerns about this item? Some additional comments I can add later if needed. Commissioner Foskini, go ahead.
I just wanted to add in that, when they presented on this at our meeting, they said they're talking about like maybe once a month or a couple times a month, like having some very light music in the establishment, nothing serious. This was going to be kind of a minimal entertainment use as far as these things go. So just wanted to add that context.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking, so Commissioner Shapiro was very hesitant to be supportive of this because I'm not sure why, but he doesn't like the idea of a business, I guess, immediately having entertainment options. It's located where there's not really residential units nearby, like immediately adjacent, besides the kind of 18th Street upstairs units. It's hard. Abca's records are hard to search for publicly. I mean, they're there, but it's not the greatest search database. So I couldn't really find a good record of where entertainment endorsement for restaurant licensees. I had a hard time figuring that out. But a lot of the nearby units have had hard times with turnover, and we hear this a lot where business owners want to find ways to increase opportunities for revenue. And it's one thing if a place is saying, hey, we're going to be capacity of 300 people and we want to blast electronic music until 3 a.m. That hasn't been the proposal here, and a business has incentive to be honest with their neighbors, especially on the regulatory side. So it's a lot of words to say that I think it's worth supporting this despite Commissioner Shapiro's opposition. And besides him, I hadn't really heard any concerns with it. They seem to have been a good neighbor so far. So other thoughts, Commissioner Van Wy, go ahead.
Yeah, I recognize he's not here and I don't want anyone to put words in his mouth, but could anyone who was in the meeting, to the best of your ability, summarize Commissioner Shapiro's objections?
Jake, you want to take it or me?
He wrote an email to the commissioners earlier today, but I think some of the emails might have been wrong, so I don't know that everybody got it. But I think generally Commissioner Shapiro thinks that businesses are too loud on 18th and doesn't want any more entertainment endorsements. I don't want to it's my general sense.
I'm happy to. Would you be comfortable if I read his points from the email?
Well, go for it.
He said, I did not agree with the decision in September to approve the entertainment endorsement for several reasons. One, we do not know enough about the timing or the nature of the proposed entertainment. Two, this is supposedly a restaurant. Why do they need an entertainment endorsement at inception? And three, the principal at this establishment did not provide a local history of operating establishments. As such, locally, we do not know her background.
Thank you. Yeah, well said.
Thanks. I've had a little trouble accessing my email the last week, so that was helpful.
No, you're not alone. It's all right. Commissioner Stevens, go ahead.
So I did not receive that email either, so I'm not really sure what happened there. But I would like to vote for this, but I guess my concern would be, I feel like we do need a little more detail in terms of the schedule of entertainment, the type of entertainment, and the time frame when this would occur, and this kind of thing. Do you think if we postpone this vote, do you think that the establishment owner could produce some kind of further details? Again, like an entertainment type description and schedule, and
I can't speak for the business owner, but I think there's at least a two-part answer to that, which is, well, the one simple answer, as far as like type of entertainment, I don't think legally we're allowed to ask for mixed reasons, but like if historically there have been institutions that have, for example, music that particularly caters to an ethnic or racial minority, and people would discriminate based on that. So we can't get into that, which is probably a good thing. The second part is, I mean, a business, if they have the ability or the permission to have an entertainment on their premises, can change how they want to do that. So they don't have to put in stone a specific plan. I mean, they just have to put into their application hours of operation and things like that. So that's something that's was already shared. That's what every commission gets when the application goes through. So beyond that, there's not something that could, I mean, that's kind of the balance. To what degree should the neighborhood be able to force a new business to solidify plans for a business that they might not have decided upon? Because the market dictates and demand and what the neighborhood likes to spend money on. It's tough. So I mean, ideally they'd have a specific schedule or something, but there's a good chance that a year, 3 years, hopefully in 10 years they're around and they have a different schedule of what they want to do. So that's allowed. It's just kind of a tricky thing. So I know that's not a great answer to your question, but hopefully that's helpful. Commissioner Michelson Horowitz, go ahead.
Yeah, can you go a little bit into the process for the consent agreement and their participation in that? When is that typically signed? And how much detail do they put in that?
When you say consent agreement, what do you mean? Settlement
Sorry,
agreement?
the settlement agreement. I apologize. Getting my words confused.
And I'll let Commissioner Falskini jump in after if needed. But I mean, it's a volunteer agreement. They used to be called volunteer agreements. They can happen at any point in time between any number of the parties that would be able to with a business. So ANC's, I think, abutting neighborhoods, also like groups like Calorama Citizens Association that have a certain qualification. I think it's a low threshold, but it's a threshold. It can happen at any point in time. It's usually done. I think there's incentive to do it before or around the time a business is opening, just to kind of set that in stone from the get-go. But in theory, it can happen whenever. Commissioner Falskini, go ahead.
To answer Margaret's question, when we asked the business owner, they talked about doing like a very a chill DJ set like once a month or something along those lines. Like they weren't talking about doing much as far as entertainment goes, but that's definitely something we can talk about with them in the settlement agreement. To move on to Commissioner Michelson Horowitz's question, we can definitely get more into that, set like the maximum number of entertainment nights that they can have in a period of a month. We can require them to keep a logbook. You don't normally ask them to set it out in advance because that's pretty prescriptive, but you can force them to keep a logbook that the commissioner or ABRA could check at any time. So those are normal terms in a settlement agreement with restaurants, and we can certainly ask for that in whatever it is that we agree to with this business going forward. They were very open to doing a settlement agreement. And I'll just also, we have this sort of entertainment agreement with several other restaurants in the neighborhood. This is one of the few Black-owned businesses and Black-owned properties that is renting to a business establishment in the neighborhood. I feel deeply uncomfortable treating this business any different than we would treat any other restaurant that has come before us asking for this sort of endorsement, and especially putting them in some sort of harsher terms vis-a-vis the neighborhood feels especially wrong, and potentially opening up the ANC to a lawsuit that I really don't want to do. So I'd be very, very careful, recommend that we as an ANC be very, very careful treating this business any differently than we've treated any other business that's gone before us.
Thanks for saying that. I was going to say the exact same things, especially regarding the last point. So appreciate you raising that. Commissioner Stevens, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if this is commonplace with a commonplace type of agreement with other restaurants, then I'm fine with it. I guess I was just a little concerned that this was a special exception, that this was going to be, a restaurant that's trying to be basically a nightclub. I guess I'll just say it, they're trying to get around the other rules that are in place, this kind of thing. But no, if this is commonplace, then I can get on board. I mean, so I just didn't know, so that makes sense.
Oh, that's good. I mean, it can definitely become confusing as well. And I will even say, I know this is not the most politically safe thing to say, but there are restaurants that have restaurant licenses that probably could be argued that do sort of act like nightclubs at some moments. And they, depending on the institution, don't cause that many problems in some of the cases. There are others that it's different in different parts of the city, but I can speak for myself in my experience in the last few years that there's a few where we've worked on settlement agreements together and they've been pretty good neighbors. And I don't even know if this is that case. So even if that were the situation, it's not something that's necessarily a good or bad thing. I think that a lot of restaurants also don't, well, we don't have a lot of tavern licenses available. So a lot of business owners want to sell alcohol because it's where a lot of revenue can come with having relatively little real estate. And an entertainment license is another option that can kind of add events that can bring a lot of people that spend money very quickly. A lot of places, I would guess, don't do it because, frankly, neighbors are against it just because they just don't like the idea of sometimes people being happy, but sometimes legitimate concerns of noise and loitering, things like that. So every instance is different, but the owners have been really good so far. So hopefully that continues. Commissioner Paleskini, go ahead.
Sorry, I just realized the last thing that we forgot to include that's probably the most important is this business has actually already entered into a settlement agreement with the Colorado Citizens Association. So they're not fighting any sort of kind of agreement with the neighborhood in any way.
It's a good point to bring up. Thanks.
Thank
you. Anyone in attendance have any questions, comments on this issue? I think it's probably one of the few that warrant this length of discussion, both for the specifics of the application as well as kind of the bigger picture issues that Commissioner Paleskini mentioned. I will move that we support an entertainment endorsement for this, for mixed, was voted upon and supported by the committee, so it doesn't need a second. All those in favor, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. We'll move ahead. The next is for, I hope I say it right, SIBO, which will also be on 18th Street. This is for a pretty standard Class C restaurant license. Commissioner Falski, do you want to add any details for this one?
No, it's pretty standard. They're not asking for anything special here. So, and we're totally willing to enter into a settlement agreement as well.
Yeah, that was my impression as well. And this was passed unanimously. Everything else was passed unanimously from our committee besides that first item. Commissioners, questions, comments? Attendees, comments? I'll move to support. No second needed. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Let's do that for every item. The next item is similarly City Lights of China. They're new to Adams Morgan, not new to DC. They're relocated from DuPont. Super nice. Similar. They're very clearly oriented towards selling food. They just want to also be able to sell beverages. I think that this is one of hopefully the least controversial, besides maybe like Yerevan, which is just a tiny little cute cafe. Not really much to contend here. Anything I'm missing here, Commissioner Faleskini? Any questions or comments on this item? Commissioners,
very cut and dry, and anyone that's been by and seen it, it's just a takeout stand. Like it's very cut and dry.
Yeah. All right. So same thing. I'll move that we support this Class C restaurant license. No second needed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is an entertainment endorsement. It's a different type of entertainment endorsement. Well, it's a different purpose, I should say. It's from the diner, so it's an even more established or similarly established institution for Adams Morgan. Commissioner Faleskini can add if I want anything, but basically they want to have bingo again. And they didn't have this entertainment endorsement when they did in the past, which was fine, I guess. But now they're just trying to make sure that they have all of their I guess paperwork in order, just in the event that anyone would want to make their lives difficult. So really well-known institution, and Constantine used to be very involved with the bid, so he's no stranger. Commissioner Faleskini, anything I'm missing here?
I think there was one other thing along with bingo, is like maybe trivia as
yeah, politically themed.
Yeah. So that just so folks don't feel like we're trying to hide anything, it's both bingo and maybe trivia once a month or something along those lines. I mean, it was very, very low key.
Yeah, I think that Constantine, even we kind of joked, I was like, if they were to secretly slide in like a set of multiple DJs and blast like house music, it'd probably push away a lot of their longtime patrons, because that's not the vibe that they've been developing for like 3 decades. All right, any questions, commissioners, attendees? All right, I'll move to support this as well. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. And that does it for the ABC committee. Moving on to PZT. First item is a patio permit submission for Foxtrot. They're not in yet, but they've clearly, had a lot of items in the past for us. They're trying to get all of this set up. I'm eager for them to be in operation soon. Commissioner Dixon, do you have anything to add as far as this one?
No, the seating arrangement is very similar to what it was when it was Pete's Coffee. It's all ADA compliant. We're really excited for them to open, and it passed unanimously.
All we need to hear. Any questions, commissioners, attendees? All moved as well. Support this. Get them in business. Get that corner moving again. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain on this one.
1 abstention. The motion passes 6-0 to 1. Next item from that committee is a application request for support for a sidewalk cafe permit for Lucky Buns, another business that's been around quite a long time. They, I think, just recently opened a second location in the Wharf, I think. Commissioner Dixon, any additional information that we should consider?
No, this one was interesting. All they're doing, it's their existing patio. They just want to enclose it for the winter. So we had a bunch of questions for them, and they have all their ducks in a row. So it's just a simple closing up the patio so they can have winter service outside.
Unfortunate that they even had to come to one of our meetings to get that, but they did. Commissioner Falskini, go ahead.
I mean, I'm almost opposed just because it would shut down that beautiful greenery that they have out in that corner of town for a little while. But they promised in the meeting that they would bring it back out and it would come out in the summer and it would just hide during the winter. So we're good on that front too.
Wow, that's a good concern. I mean, yeah, another bigger concern is revenue. So they want people to be warm and order food. So I get it. Any other questions, concerns, comments, commissioners, attendees? I'll move to support this as well. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. And let's see. So our budget. This was on a general business item from last month. We voted to move it to this month. I never got a digital copy. I don't even actually have a hard copy of the proposed budget because there's only limited printed out last month. And I know that the main item that we discussed was kind of shifting money around. So a lot of it would be categorized as other. I did talk to a former treasurer for the commission, former commissioner Faulkner, Megan Faulkner. She was like, yeah, it sounds fine. Sounds like a good idea, but she, wasn't abreast of all the details of it. One of the main issues I know, or one of the main proposals by Commissioner Shapiro, is basically not having people considered staff for the ANC, which is kind of a taxing issue, which Megan was like, yeah, we should have done that a long time ago. It's just more paperwork to have people considered staff. And now we have Sean, who's contracted, and our intern, who's not, considered staff either. So that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know. Hey, Commissioner Zayat, let's discuss. Commissioner Laughlin, go ahead.
Peter, I think you skipped the first 2 items for, there was one for the grant application.
Oh yeah,
and then
no, you're totally
Sean.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did that.
It's okay. You were just eager to get to the end again.
No, I just because they started with the commission, I just skipped line because no, forget everything I just said. Let's move back to PSE. I apologize.
Because this is issues with the budget, probably what we're going to discuss.
Totally valid point for multiple reasons. Good to move. Unfortunate that I'm probably going to have bad news to bring. So I did contact. The next item is from Public Services and the Environment Committee. The first item is a grant application that was passed by the committee for Platform of Hope. I love Platform of Hope. I did ask ANC, that was kind of her main concern, is if basically this is a grant that they are okay with us granting. And they said no. They said that, before I get into that, Commissioner Laughlin, you want to give me?
Yeah, and I believe Judy is, she's in the participant list, so I didn't get it. I'm sorry, Judy, I didn't text you. She's here. Maybe we can ask some clarifying questions. So for some background, so Platform of Hope, they had applied for a $3,000 grant to support the purchase of computers for 20 low-income families. And we have concern, the rules not have changed, but like the ANC has been a lot more restrictive about how ANCs can use the grant money. And Peter was able to get in touch with their office today, and we got some initial feedback. And I just want to get a clarifying from Judy, is that these computers that are purchased, are they then owned by the families that they're purchased for, or are they still owned by the nonprofit?
They would be owned by the families unless that's an issue.
And that is what seems to be the issue, is that they're not, because they'd be personal property of these individuals, and not of the nonprofit itself. That I can forward you later, sort of the response we got back, because I do want to re-review the application and see if there's a way to modify it that would fit into the sort of rules and regulations that we have to abide by. I know that the organization has received this grant in the past, but I don't know if I know during the COVID years, there was a lot more like relaxed regulations on certain things. And there's just been more oversight of money used out of ANCs, but that is the feedback that we got today. And I'm not we may need to sort of think about your application and what we could do, what we could suggest to you to help modify that.
Yeah, and just to kind of doubly summarize, I mean, one of the issues, like Commissioner Laughlin was saying, is during the public health emergency, the office of the ONC had kind of given it guidance, or I guess made it officially a temporary policy, that things like food, things that typically we weren't allowed to support through grant money, could be done. So it was good. And then it stopped because the public health emergency stopped. And the issue that they raised with this is that, and I personally take issue with their issue, but they say, well, it's not duplicative of services already rendered by or provided by DC government, but because the money would go towards computers that wouldn't be available for the general public to use, that it's not something that the ANC is appropriate to financially support, because we're only supposed to support things that are for the general public. I take an issue because, for example, we have things that are for the general public, like public spaces, that are completely neglected and not used by anybody, but to have it so that people, for example, that are in vulnerable financial situations or don't have digital literacy, their well-being is good for everybody. So, I mean, I wish that was a different take from the ONC, but at the moment, that seems, if that were to be how the application were fully submitted, that would be something that they're going to say, oh, we can't do this. So there's opportunity to modify, like Commissioner Laughlin is saying, to make it so that it can abide by those rules. But those are the rules that we're kind of told are in place at the moment. Commissioner Falaskini, please go ahead.
What if it were just like a 10-year $0 lease?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer to that. That's probably a hypothetical suggestion that's worth considering.
Yeah, and Judy, I forward the response that we got to. I'm also wondering, and this is something that we can ask the ANC office, is if we as the ANC could purchase the computers, and then distribute. I don't know if that's an option that we can look into as well.
Yeah. The reason I'm surprised by this is, so we've received funding for this specifically, and I understand that was under the COVID guidelines, but our very first grant from the ANC, which was before the pandemic, was equipment that would be used to have translators, like live translation for Spanish speakers. And so I guess I don't understand how that grant would have been approved. Like, to me, if I look at the history of the grants that the ANC has funded, you funded like sitar arts programs, like it doesn't, there's just weird to me that there's now a prerequisite that anything the ANC funds has to be open to the public, because to my knowledge, you funded many organizations that do have people who are enrolled in their programs. And for example, with sitar, it would be kids. So that would be like, oh, we're discriminating, you know, adults wouldn't be open to it. So I guess my suggestion on this would be to say the Platform of Hope's work is of what is benefit to the community. The fact that we are working with adults in the community to identify and pursue their goals is what is of benefit to the community, even if it means that we have specific people enrolled in the community. Much like if you are funding any nonprofit organization, most nonprofit organizations are going to have participants in their organization and actually wouldn't be providing services to the general public. I understand how if it's like a festival that's open to everybody, that's one thing. But my understanding is even looking at the last list of grantees and looking at the grantees that ANC's fund as a whole, I'm just, the reading of that seems so limited and prescriptive, particularly knowing the history of the grant making of this particular ANC, even before the pandemic. So I'm wondering, I hear all the creative suggestions around the computers, which I think is fantastic. Good luck getting those computers back in 10 years. Hopefully that won't be my job. But my pushback would say that, you know, ANC funds, the fact that Platform of Hope works with families is what is of benefit to the community. It's not it much like any program giving out supplies, there's going to be a limit to how many supplies you can give out, even if it's like textbooks, right? Or coloring supplies. You're only going to have 200 or wherever that you're funding. So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. This is my attempt to be a lawyer, but that would be my pushback. I'm surprised that there's that narrow definition, because otherwise most nonprofits would not be qualified to apply for funds under this grant unless they were doing like a festival or fair.
I very much agree. That's how I prefaced my communication with the office of ONC. I was surprised at the response as well. So it's really unfortunate. I mean, hopefully we can figure something out. I don't know if
I'm wondering if there's just a clause written that if a family no longer needs the computer, that they would bring it back to the program. It doesn't mean that would ever like necessarily happen, but maybe if it's made as a clause within the grant or something, I can continue to reach out to this office and see, because it's not quite logical.
Yeah. And I do remember in years past that we did have a back and forth about this. So I'm very open to amending the grant application so that it's something that's, you know, palatable and no one gets in trouble. It's just, I would be very curious to know what allowable uses are for things other than like public events. Because if that's the case, then they should just make it clear that this grant program is only for public events and not for anything that has any enrollment.
No, I think we need more clarification too, because it seems like it's evolved into some different rules and regulations. So it puts us in a situation too that what we originally were granting in the past is not necessarily what we can legally do now.
Yeah, I mean, the most speculation I can think of is that there's been personnel changes at ONC, so maybe that's kind of correlated.
And just more oversight. I feel like there's been more oversight and discussion of how ANCs have spent their money.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Like I was saying, I want you to get this. It's good for the community. I think that it does serve the purposes of what ANCs are supposed to support. So it's unfortunate when bureaucracy gets in the way of progress, but I guess that we'll do what we can. Do you have any other comments?
No, I super appreciate everyone's surprise at this and appreciate your ideas. And yeah, if there's a creative solution, very happy to do that. The other thing is it's not like we don't have other expenses that we would love to apply for support. But again, I would be concerned that this thing would be a similar, well, yes, we are targeting a certain population and therefore we would, anyway, but appreciate everyone's help and also don't want to make this meeting any longer than it already is on a Wednesday night. So I'll pause there.
Judy, I will follow up with you and we'll get more clarification. And maybe there's a way we could apply it to something else within your nonprofit, or maybe a modification to the grant, and maybe that'll be fine.
Great, thank you.
No, I appreciate your patience with this. I know that you spent a lot of work on this application, so I hate to have you come to a meeting to be told that you don't really get anything out of it. But it is something that, as you both noticed, we got to figure it out for our own sake as well. So I guess we were going to figure this out regardless. We'll see where it goes. So I'll move, I guess, to postpone this item for a month, and definitely what Commissioner Laughlin, you have any thoughts what we should do?
For a month, I definitely would want to bring this back up for the next PSE meeting. Like, I'd like to make sure that because I would also want at that meeting to maybe even have someone from the ANC come in and speak and give some clarification on the grants. And then Peter, you and I can talk more offline at some point. It's like if we could vote via email instead of having, I just don't want to make this nonprofit wait any longer than they already have.
Totally agree.
Sorry if I could chime in quickly. I would love to have someone come and explain the grant process as another member of that subcommittee. I think that would be really helpful because I too am a little thrown by the phrasing there, and it would be good to have a better understanding and maybe an opportunity to pose some questions.
Yeah. All right. So I'll move to postpone this item to our, it's already November almost, Jesus, to our November meeting with the understanding that PSE will address this in more detail in October.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
I second that.
Perfect. All those in favor of postponing, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thanks for coming, Judy. Hopefully we'll have better news in the near future.
Thank you.
Next item, also supported from PSC committee, is a new contract for Sean. We had discussed this a bit in the past. His contract's expiring. It goes month to month, so we don't have to support or to pass anything at this moment, but especially just in light of, you know, having attempts at hybrid meetings and such, there was a bit of incentive to at least get something discussed, if not resolved in the near future. Commissioner Laughlin, I know we were both, I did more talking than you on this item at the committee meeting, but regardless, do you have any thoughts to share?
No, it was just I think from what you said at the PSE meeting, Peter, we just wanted to make sure that Sean knew that we fully want to keep him on board to help run our online meetings, YouTube, all that stuff. So we just wanted to make sure that support and confirm a contract for him. So it would be just basically continuing on of what he's currently been doing in his current capacity at the same rate. And yeah, so we as PSC committee supported unanimously on that.
And that was just to clarify, that was to just copy and paste the same exact contract, but with different dates for the coming year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple of comments to add. Sean, while you're here, you have anything that you want to raise?
No, that all sounds good, and appreciate it being addressed, and look forward to continuing working with everybody in the neighborhood.
Great. The dates that we had, I know that we'd like the wording of the contract, how it goes. I think this is more of a question for Commissioner Laughlin, but is there a specific, like, I think currently it was from October to October. Would it be the same, or would it go through? I mean, ideally, I would say just put it down to December of next year, just so it finishes out our term. It doesn't really matter if it has month to month language in there, but what is
right? I actually I don't think I have the contract. So
it's somewhere.
I don't think. Yeah,
it's in our drive. I'll dig it up, but
okay.
I guess let's decide on that. I would suggest. Yeah, I guess
I know it was originally October through October, so that would have been this year. But I'm happy to amend it to November if that works, or December if that works better.
That works. I mean, it doesn't really matter, like I said, but just for the sake of, I guess, even keeping, and even still, the language, as we discussed before, either party can decide to terminate it with like 30-day notice. So it's a little bit arbitrary, my suggestion, but probably just
makes sense. Makes sense.
Commissioner Falskini, go ahead.
Hey, so my only flag on that is that if we make it the end of December, that sometimes new commissioners coming on just take a little while to like come up to speed, and also the commission can take a little while coming up to speed, doing committee meetings, getting sworn in. Like we all try to do our best, right? But it takes a little bit at the beginning of folks' terms. So if we actually end it right then the new commissioners might not be able to put a contract in place immediately in a way that they would need to in order for Sean to continue his services. So it actually might be better to like leave it October, then we can figure it out through some period of time that goes into the new commissioner's terms and covers them for some period of months. And then they can like take it from there. So we would lock them into a contract for some like period of time into the next year, but not so far into the next year that they wouldn't be able to make their own decision on it. But also it wouldn't just end right when the new commissioners are coming on and force them to be able to act on it immediately within their first coming on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I might even be overthinking it, or maybe even we both are, because if there's month-to-month language, it can be extended. And also, like if there was a December or whatever month, at any point in time, we could discuss a new contract that would take place after the duration of that one. So, I mean, your main point I think is completely valid, which is we don't want to have a moment where a new commission has to figure everything out for all of the moving pieces. So I think in either case, that wouldn't be it. So, I mean, hopefully Sean can continue, but you never know what availability is in like 13 months from now. So it's hard to predict. So
Yeah, no, that works for me.
yeah, I guess it does. I mean, I guess it's a very trivial difference, but or I guess in terms of work or workload, it's a small difference, like a couple words. But I guess I'll just kind of rescind what I was suggesting, just keep the same language as current, just so we can just copy and paste the exact same thing. So just be October to October, and then we'd have time this time next year to start discussing what the next move might be, assuming that you get to the end of this contract. So that works for me. Attendees, any questions, comments on this item? Other commissioners? All right, I'll move. I guess that I'll just move. This was a general item. No, this came for PSC, so this was supported. Doesn't need a second. I'll just move to support a renewal of a contract for Sean, same contract as before, through next October. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Glad to keep you, Sean. All right, so
Looking forward to it. Thank you all. I'm sorry. Sorry I'm not on camera.
don't worry about it. Hope you're feeling better soon.
Appreciate it. Vaccines are awesome.
All right. So last item, I guess I gave us a preview. Fiscal year 2024 budget. Thoughts. I should restart what I was already saying. We had discussed this a bit last month. Our treasurer's not here. Not really sure what to do on this. I have ideas, but Commissioner Laughlin, you have any thoughts? I know that you had discussed a bit of this in the past, or any other commissioner. As far as it relates to the grants, is there anything in particular? I know we had discussed that one before.
I mean, I guess we have to get a sense of what we really can support with grants, because if it's going to be more limited in scope of what we've traditionally done in the past, then maybe the amount of money that we put in towards grants maybe should be distributed differently.
Yeah, I mean, the one question I'd have that I don't know if Commissioner Shapiro has an answer, which is, does it matter? Like, is there any, I don't know, consequence or penalty if we were to have, what would an unfavorable categorization of our budget be in the eyes of, I guess, ONC? And then what would happen if we, for example, aren't supposed to be putting a ton of money is categorized as other? Like, what happens if we do that? I'm guessing and hoping that it's just like, hey, slap on the wrist will help you guide it into the right direction. That's how it should be. Or really, the paid staff should be doing this work for the entire city. But we're here, so I don't know. Commissioners, do you have any other thoughts? In general, I think it's okay. I mean, Commissioner Shapiro has been spending time on this, so I'm not opposed to supporting this and seeing where it goes. But I'm curious if anyone else has comments. Commissioner Stevens, go ahead.
So Megan said she thought it look good or did not look good? I
I
couldn't.
just haven't seen the
hear.
budget, just like I have
Mhm.
only seen a glance. I think that like Daniel or John or somebody had the paper last month and I got to look at it for like a second, and that's all I've seen. So I guess that would be an argument to, well, I think we should probably, ideally, we should take a move tonight because it's the time where we're supposed to have our next year's budget
Mhm.
set. So if we have something at least passed that we can always maybe amend later, I think that would be better than
Mhm.
seeing what happens if we don't take action, especially because there's other outstanding things that were under the treasurer's purview that seem to have been outstanding, and I've been trying to figure out how the paperwork has to get in. It's not directly related to this, but if we want to have the ONC help us and give us leniency,
Mhm.
probably best not to have too many untied ends or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah, but
that
to answer
makes
your question,
sense. That makes sense.
Megan didn't get to see the budget, but I asked her a general question. I was like,
Mhm.
hey, just in case I need to be able to say I've talked to a treasurer about this that has experience,
Mhm.
doesn't make sense to shift money away from staff and put into other something like that. And she was like, without seeing details, it sounds like an idea that makes sense, but like her comment can only go so far just because
Yeah,
she's not.
It's just that I'm not a financial person, so but anyway, yeah, I mean, but what you said makes sense. I mean, I guess it makes sense to pass something tonight and then we can amend it, if we need to, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I haven't dealt with this specific issue before because we kind of just replicated similar budgets in the past. So it's interesting. I mean, it makes sense that, well, Commissioner Shapiro wanted to change the way things are done a bit, and it's for efficiency's sake. So hopefully that's what it leads to. But yeah.
Yeah, I know like one thing, like I think we rent a mailbox that we don't really get much
Yeah, no.
mail at. I don't know if we're legally required to have one, but I
Think
feel
so.
like that's like, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to share like a mailbox like for all Ward 1, for all Ward 2. Like it just, times have changed and people don't send us mail. They'll do it by email. So and I don't even know, I can't remember how much it cost, but it wasn't
It's
cheap,
not too
but
bad.
I don't,
No.
so I mean, I feel like we maybe brainstorm with other ANCs or areas or with the OANC on that, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be renting a mailbox.
I agree. I mean, my idea that we could discuss in the future, because we wouldn't, if you're removing an expense, I don't think there's an issue of the future of just making things cheaper. So we could decide some other time. But like one idea is, like legally, the District of Columbia's government is, if an ANC requests to have a physical space that is like our office, they're required to find something within the boundaries of our ANC. It's not always easy, but I mean, we could just say, hey, you're legally required to have some physical space. It can be a coat room or whatever, as long as there's something that has a mailing address. As far as I could tell, it's worth looking into. We could have something that's free and legally forced to be provided to us instead of using a PO box, but it's worth clarifying if that's possible. So that's one way to save money, because like Barney said before, no one's mailing the ANC, they're emailing us. So, or just coming to the open meetings. So yeah. Any other thoughts, commissioners? I guess I'll move to support. We got to send the budget in, so we'll send the one that I don't even haven't really seen that much. I'll just trust our treasurer on this, and it's on his back if it goes awry. Anyone want a second?
Second.
All those in favor of passing our fiscal year 2024 budget, please say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Look, we did a better job than Congress.
Peter,
Having a Republican,
our chair.
I move to vacate the chair.
This meeting is already being adjourned, so you don't have that opportunity. Any opposed, any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. We're going to end this before people get ideas. Nice meeting everyone tonight. We'll follow up on I know there's a lot of different moving parts that we kind of discussed tonight, so we'll collect ourselves and hopefully figure that stuff out as we go. Especially the public safety stuff. I know that's on a lot of our minds, and we get a lot of contact, at least I do, from constituents. So it's probably something that we can't solve in the big picture, but in small picture terms, we can do little things. So looking forward to doing that. Thank you everyone who attended tonight. Have a good